In 1839, Robert Smalls was born into slavery in South Carolina.
You have to be impressed with his boldness. Long before he captured the ship, he'd been doing things that were out of the ordinary. And he was always pushing the envelope toward freedom.
That quest for freedom, a commodity still in dispute today, was Robert Smalls' guiding star.
He was born in Beaufort, South Carolina, at the home on Prince Street of a family known as the McKees, sometimes pronounced Mackey. We don't know exactly who his parent, we know his mother was Lydia Smalls, but his father probably was his master, though there are some stories that make other people, an itinerant Jewish merchant coming through the city or something like that is possibly his father. Mother was a slave, a house servant in the family home. To the beginning of the Civil War, Smalls is living in Charleston. He's working in Charleston. He has been basically rented or leased out by the family to an individual who ran a steamship in Charleston.
When he was 17 years old, he got married to a young woman who was 30 and already had 2 children. But that was no problem for him. He was big and strong, and she said he was a great guy, and he thought she was wonderful. So Fritz Smalls got permission from his own owner to purchase his wife. And his own owner, I told you, was always kind to Smalls and said, okay, fine by me. But then the tough part was getting her owner to agree to it. But Smalls went to see him, made the proposition, I'd like to purchase my wife and daughter. The guy said, you're a slave. Smalls said, yeah, but I got some money.
Now, Smalls knows a great deal about the waterways. He's been trained as a pilot, has had a number of slaves and free blacks in this area. They are really the principal pilots along the southeastern coast by the time we get up to the Civil War.
He always intended to be free. I mean, the fact that he started to actually save money to purchase his wife's freedom indicates that he was thinking about being free. He was going to be a free black man one way or another. And he just saw a quicker way to doing it, you know. He seized the opportunity.
By now, Robert Smalls was a major general in the South Carolina militia and began to see that his community, as well as his family, needed his leadership to create a more perfect union.
And indeed, during the war, Smalls will go to Washington, D.C. with some of the missionaries and meet with Edwin Stanton, the Secretary of War, to push for the use of black troops and the raising of black troops from this area. This region's abandoned by the planters. The planters leave their plantations, leave behind almost 10,000 slaves, and Smalls will be part of the sort of education, economic, political reconstruction that goes on in this area.
From 1868 to 1874, Robert Smalls served in both houses of the South Carolina state legislature.
After the war, when he became a politician, it was Robert Smalls who introduced a resolution in the Constitutional Convention of 1868 in South Carolina that created the first public schools for blacks and whites in South Carolina, the first public schools in the nation.
Robert Smalls did not receive a formal education. Instead, he hired tutors to teach him the basics of reading and writing.
But he understood that that was one of the things that separated black folks and white folks when he was growing up. And that was one of the things that was essential to U.S. citizenship for the freedmen.
Although a national official, Congressman Robert Smalls repeatedly faced hostility, never backing down, yet never inciting violence. His demeanor was one of his best assets as a politician. In 1876, Rutherford B. Hayes was declared the winner of a controversial presidential election. To gain favor from the Southern Democrats in Congress, President Hayes, a Republican, withdrew troops from the South. Reconstruction was over.
Smalls was arrested. Do you know about that?